Hey, it's Soul with another video. To your right are just some of the awesome sponsors who keep this channel operating. And here are 6 predictions I have about the upcoming classic version of the World of Warcraft. Yeah, I know I could have went with my typical long-winded intro, but let's just jump right into it. Prediction number 1 is only a prediction because there are those out there who somehow doubt this, but I think Classic WoW will more than likely do just fine. It's gonna be successful. You might think it's weird to hear that from me, as someone who's almost offended by the term retail WoW. Like, what's that even going to mean in a few months? Anyway, I think it will be successful for a number of reasons, but I'll stick to one. If you recall this image from Blizzard from 2004 to 2014, there were over 100 million WoW accounts created. Now that's 10 years. This year, WoW will be 15 years old. So even if you were to say that literally no new players have started WoW since Warlords of Draenor, well, guess what? That's still 100 million potential customers for Classic WoW. 100 million people, that's like the population of the Philippines, according to random statistic that I found on Google. So if only 1% of those players, just 1%, was interested in trying Classic WoW for any period of time, well, that's still a million people. 1 million people playing a game that's in perpetual maintenance mode. It doesn't require long-term design changes, new art, significant improvements post-launch. This would be a huge win for Blizzard and the Warcraft franchise, and a dog walk to most MMOs that would kill for a piece of that pie, according to this other random statistic from Google. Number 2 isn't set in stone, but this is worth speculating on. Based on our current knowledge of how Classic WoW is going to work, it might be considered easier compared to Vanilla WoW for one very big reason, the debuff limit. At the launch of Vanilla, enemies had a limit of 8 debuffs that could be applied to them. So dot-heavy classes, aka Warlocks, couldn't use their full toolkits because another debuff would pretty much push theirs off. Curse of Elements, Sunder Armor, Hunter's Mark, there are other debuffs that are far more impactful than another Curse of Agony, so Warlocks have fun with those Shadow Bolts. This wasn't changed until patch 1.7 when this limit was raised to 16. Now first, this doesn't sound so bad because Classic is going to be based on the 1.12 client, so naturally the debuff limit should be 16, right? Maybe. 2 raids were immediately available in Vanilla, at least after meeting some lofty requirements. That's Onyxia's Lair and Molten Core. So for about 10 months or so, players dealt with a Molten Core and an Onyxia with only 8 debuffs. Blackwing Lair was released with patch 1.6, and the Tharian wasn't defeated until 1.7 when this debuff limit was raised. The point I'm trying to make here is that if the debuff limit is going to be 16 at launch, Classic WoW will be an easy mode version of Vanilla. Double the debuffs doesn't really equate to double the damage, but it will arguably make encounters easier. Now Blizzard might change this, like they may put in some sort of debuff limiter that they lift after AQ is released, and if that happens, cool. If they don't though, that sense of progression may feel cheapened because the Classic players will have an advantage that Vanilla players did not. And this can cascade. More accessible raids means easier gear and progression, and for some this might take some of that coolness factor away. Number 3, and this is thanks to one of my viewers, Menard, raiding is not likely to be what sustains Classic WoW's endgame, but PvP. No doubt it will be a cool accomplishment to be in the guild that completes Nax first, or to be one of the few that gain the title of Scarab Lord. But after the gates are opened and Kel'Thuzad is dead, well, what's left in the PvE game apart from doing the same thing again a little differently? PvP, though, is accessible to the individuals with the skill, but more importantly the will, to grind their way to High Warlord and Grand Marshal. I won't go into too many details, but your PvP rank is based on how much PvP you've been doing one week compared to the previous week, and this is also compared to how other players have been performing. Basically, you need to grind your face off in PvP before you hit rank 14, the maximum rank. To get there earns you a lot of prestige and notoriety, and not to mention some really sweet gear. I have a good feeling that the long-term enjoyment of Classic WoW is going to be found here. Yeah, there's going to be a few reliable streams of PvE content, but I think that more traffic is going to go to the High Warlords and Grand Marshals that are streaming their domination over the week. Number 4. Blizzard will use sharding in Classic WoW. Downvoters, this is what you've been waiting for. A lot of people will want to play Classic WoW, that much is certain. But how is Blizzard going to handle the players pounding at the gate? There are 3 possibilities, all of which will piss off certain people. One is to have a set number of servers for Classic, and to just let players deal with possible queue times, potentially for every single realm. Realm queues might feel nostalgic, but when your friends are leveling and you're not, that feeling is going to go away real quick. 2 is to have a crap ton of realms available so that everyone can get in with no problems. Now, this is great at the beginning, but I've talked about this a lot in previous videos. After this big initial flood of players, a ton of them are going to fall off. You don't want to be the person who chose the server that ended up being dead after only a few months. If Blizzard does go this route, they're also going to have to be super aggressive about offering free character transfers to distribute the populations, or to maybe merge realms. But this will also feel awkward for people affected. 3 is that Blizzard will have a set number of servers for Classic, but they're also going to selectively use sharding in high-impact places like starting zones to split players. And I want to make really clear that they won't use sharding to bring people from other realms together. This way, they can easily support a much higher realm cap early on. And when players are better distributed throughout the zones, sharding won't be needed except for very extreme circumstances. Personally, I think this option works best if it's used as just a stopgap, and not a regular occurrence that we see in modern WoW. But there are some among you who are absolutely against this for even the most innocent and benign of reasons, and I feel you. This method though seems to be the least harmful for players in the long run. And I think in the long run, we want Classic WoW to be successful, right? Number 5. Interacting with your server community will not be quite as nostalgic in the modern age. Server community is the battle standard of Classic WoW fans that's waved often, and for good reason. An enclosed community gives a small town feel, where people know each other, reputation matters, and grouping with others means that you're helping out your local economy. But it's 2019, and that's hard to ignore. Classic WoW is going to launch in a world where there are few, if any, secrets left remaining. It's not just that, but this knowledge is out in the open, supported by an organized and gargantuan database that's far more robust and precise than the thoughtbots and alakazams of old. It's not only that though. Finding a group in trade chat is an often mentioned activity when referring to WoW before the LFD and the pre-made group tool. But how long will it be before players wise up and decide that a Discord server dedicated to your realm is far more effective than keeping your character parked in town? If you're down in Blackrock depths and you lose a person, a replacement is potentially just a few keystrokes away on your realm Discord that can be sent immediately to a large number of people, even if they're not in the capital, even if they're not logged into WoW. But is this really a bad thing? I mean, it could be for some, but I'm just making some predictions and not trying to sell the doom and gloom for Classic WoW. And finally, number 6. There will eventually be multiple classic versions of WoW, but not for a long time. I think Classic WoW will be an overall plus for the Blizzard portfolio, but I do have concerns that creating even more servers to suit other old expansions too quickly will be a big diminishing return. No matter how this is implemented, supporting additional expansions is tantamount to creating separate instances of WoW that don't communicate with each other. However, I would anticipate that if or when interest in Classic WoW dips to a certain point, Blizzard will dangle the idea of adding Classic realms to reignite interest, because money, you know? Classic WoW just might follow a similar timeline as the original, where every 2 or so years a new expansion is launched along with a new realm, and people can hang out there. As for how that's implemented, that's anyone's guess, but I predict that investing into classic expansions will be worth it when it's timed strategically. So that's it for my predictions. I won't feel offended if you call me out as super wrong in the comments, because I probably am, but feel free to share your own predictions too, and come back to the channel for more of this and all things Warcraft. See you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.